Squirrels! So hello, and welcome to another Legends of Runeterra video. My name is Chris, and today we will be playing a deck that I am calling a beginner's deck. It is a non-champion, non-rare even, or whatever the purple one is called, epic cards. It's all commons and uncommons, so essentially it's a deck for beginners that I think is relatively easy to play, is easy to craft, but is still pretty good overall, and a deck that you can find wins with and still compete with as you start to build up your collection. Of course, Runeterra just launched officially, and so there's going to be a lot of new players, and so I thought I would build a deck for those new players. So if you are a seasoned veteran of Legends of Runeterra, then by all means this video is not for you. You do not need to watch it. But if you are a beginner to the game, or are looking for a deck that is very cheap to play, pretty fun, and is still pretty competitive, then this might be the deck for you. So let's talk about the deck itself. Well, it's very similar to a deck that I actually published a video on yesterday, and so if you are more in the market for a higher quality of deck, perhaps with some champions in there, then go and check that one out. But otherwise, if you are in this market, I am going to go through this deck, suggest some changes with some champions that you could add in, and champions that fit quite well with it, and yeah, let's talk about this deck. So it is an aggro deck, and I don't think any deck is particularly simple to play. There is no simple decks in Runeterra, because a lot of the skill in Runeterra comes from knowing what your opponent can do, what your opponent will do, and whether you should open attack or develop into the board. That's kind of always the main ideas with Runeterra, specifically regarding aggro decks. You're always asking yourself, what could they have? What am I most scared of? What's the biggest threat that they could play? Is it at fast speed, or is it at slow speed, right? Is it a unit, or is it a spell like Grasp of the Undying that could potentially win them the game? So with that said, let's talk about the deck itself. So we are an aggro deck, so of course we have quite a few 1-drops. Our top of our curve might even be 3. Oh, it's 5 with Decimate, but other than that, it is 3. So we got 3 1-drops, all from Noxus: Legion Rearguard, Legion Saboteur, and Precious Pet. These are all 3 pretty strong 1-drops. Precious Pet is very difficult to block because of its fearsome tag. Saboteur, obviously, every time it attacks, it deals 1 to the enemy Nexus directly, and obviously multiple attacks with this can be very good. And Rearguard is obviously just a 3/2. The can't block tag for this obviously doesn't matter that much because we are in an aggro deck. So essentially this is just a 1-mana 3/2, which is a very good card for this kind of deck. Boom Crew Rookie, I have stated many times that this is the best aggro card in the game. Similar to Legion Saboteur, its ability is attack, deal 2 to the enemy Nexus, but it also comes with a 1/4 body. And because in Runeterra, when you lose health from units blocking you, that change stays with the unit. Having high health stats means that this can attack multiple times a lot of the time, and therefore essentially account for 4 damage at least every single time, and maybe even added on the extra 1 as well. So this is a very fantastic card. Very good card. We combine that with the likes of Brothers Bond. There aren't too many stat changes that last throughout the game. If you make a stat change to something, most of them will just be for the round, but Brothers Bond is one of those that is not like that, and for what it does, it's probably the cheapest best ability of that kind, because it's grant 2 allies +2/+0, which obviously in an aggro deck is pretty good, and for just 2 mana at burst speed, giving 2 allies, so 2 allies, and we often will have more than 1, giving them an extra 2 attack can either allow us to trade favorably, or more importantly, deal damage straight to their Nexus. And so Brothers Bond is a very good card, and you'll notice with I think all of these cards up till now, they are all the green common gem, and most of the cards in this are, but one that isn't is Crimson Disciple. But Crimson Disciple is also a very good card, and you'll see that essentially we do want a lot of dealing damage to the enemy Nexus straight away, right? Go Face. Anyone familiar with card games will probably be familiar with the idea of burn and just going face and dealing as much damage to face, and you slap that onto a body as well, It means that this can sometimes be difficult to block for the opponent. It means because of its 3 health is quite good for a 2-drop. The sort of standard is more of a 3-2, but a 2-3 has been shown in Runeterra throughout the open beta. A 2-3 is a very solid stat line for a 2-drop, and giving it ability as well that's pretty decent is also very good. So Crimson Disciple, very good card, and goes well with our next card, Imperial Demolitionist. Now this card only just was released in the new set. Most of these cards were available in the open beta. But this one is a very strong card. This means that it's a skill, which means it will go on the stack like it would a spell. So it does give your opponent a chance to retaliate to this ability. But the ability itself is very good. Deal 1 to an ally unit to deal 2 to the enemy nexus. Essentially, you just want to hit really anything, but ideally a Crimson Disciple, because then you will get 4 damage instead of 2. But dealing 2 directly to the enemy nexus for a 2-drop, again with that solid 2-3 stat line, is very good, and very important. And so this, again, a common card, very easy to craft, very good. Legion Grenadier, we're seeing it again. Deal 2 to the enemy nexus. Essentially, you're looking for a lot of the cards that say deal damage to the nexus, right? 2-drop, last breath effect, and putting that on a 3-1. The 1 health is obviously a bit of a downside, but with a good last breath effect that deals 2 to the enemy nexus, this is often a card that opponents won't want to block because they look at the last breath as a downside to blocking this perhaps. They don't want to take the damage now, but they end up taking it later anyway, and if they are so low that they can't really afford to block this, then you have essentially won the game, and this card can cause quite a few situations where they just can't block it. Mystic Shot. Now, I'm not sure what you get in the open collection when you first open it up, but I would suggest that this is a card that you should craft straight away if you don't have 3 of them. Very solid, flexible card. Will go in pretty much if you're playing Piltover and Zorn. This card will be in it. It's just a staple of every Piltover and Zorn deck because it's just such a good value card. Dealing 2 to anything, obviously for us, it's hopefully going to go face, but it can remove priority targets if we needed to. Transfusion. I talked about some Crimson Disciple help or support, and this card definitely does that. Deal 1 to an ally, so ideally we would be going for the Crimson Disciple in that way, to deal 2 damage directly as well, to give another +2/+2. Now this is a very important card and a very good trick to have, as it gives us the ability to potentially allow something to survive a combat block, something like maybe a Boom Crew Rookie, so that we can get an extra attack off with it. And also, as I say, dealing 1 to an ally isn't that big of a deal in this deck. Normally, as you see, a lot of our units have at least 2 health outside of the 1-drops, and mostly even 3. So dealing 1 to an ally, not that big of a deal, but giving something 2/2 can help them survive and potentially or go face. Get Excited. To play, discard a card, deal 3 to anything. In this deck, obviously, this is kind of a help to close type thing, because what's going to happen often with this deck is you're going to play units early, but then as the game goes on, your units are going to be less and less useful. And so stuff like Get Excited, it becomes the way that you win. You go from controlling the board in the very early game to just wanting your spells to end the game. Stuff like Get Excited. And obviously if we discard something, it doesn't matter if it's dealing 3 straight to face. Noxian Fervor, very good card. Also a new one that came with the recent set. And Noxian Fervor is deal 3 to an ally unit to deal 3 to anything. Now this will often kill our units. You might think that's a downside, but if they are playing certain spells that give them life, then killing your unit will stop them gaining that life, and we can still just deal 3 to their face. So let's say they play a Grasp of the Undying, which I'll get up now. It's in Shadow Isles. So let's say they play this card, right? Drain 3 from a unit. Instead of, so they've just paid 5 mana to drain 3 from a unit, potentially try and survive. We're going to say no, we're going to Noxian Fervor our own unit to kill it and deal 3 to face. And they won't get the drain from this. This spell will fizzle, it didn't exist, and they just wasted 5 mana on it. So essentially a very good trade for us. Used Cast Salesman is a great card in any aggro deck, because if you come up against other aggro decks, Often it can be difficult knowing, when do I block, am I playing to survive or not, whereas Cast Salesman allows you to do it whilst burning their face directly. It's good in every single matchup because what it's going to do is a 3-3-2, which seems a bit understated, but it will summon two of these two caustic casks, and they are ephemeral, meaning they will die at the end of the round or when it strikes, and last breath, so when it dies it deals 1 to each nexus. Now we don't care about our own nexus health, of course, because we're an aggro deck. We just care about theirs, and so getting theirs down is very important, but also for when they're attacking on their turns, this can be used as a very good defensive tool to use these caster blocks, so we don't have to waste our units blocking while still dealing damage directly to their nexus. And finally, our closer is Decimate. You don't want to play this early in the game. As I said, we're probably going to go from more of a board control in the early game to in the late game wanting to find spells like this, spells like Decimate, to close the game out for us when we don't have the board. So with that all said, I'm now going to just suggest some changes. I believe you start with Jinx in your collection somewhat. I believe it's Jinx, Elise, Darius. Don't know all of them, but I know that those three, I'm pretty sure those three were in it. So you could add Jinx to this list. It would probably change somewhat. You'd probably want to play more of the discard cards. That's actually the first deck that I built, was a discard Jinx deck. Jinx can fit quite well. You probably want to get some of the more costly spells like Decimate if you want to play Jinx, because you want to empty your hand. So playing these big cost spells like Decimate probably aren't as good, and you want to play more of like Rummage and stuff that discards your hand so that you can level her up, because her level up ability is very good, especially for an aggro deck. You get an extra card draw, and then when you empty your hand again that turn, you get something that deals 4 to the enemy nexus and 1 to all other enemies for free, essentially. Obviously you have to pay the 2 mana, but it's a very, very good card. Other champions that could go in there, Draven, and that video I produced yesterday was a Draven Jinx deck, which I believe will be the future of aggro, and you see that this deck isn't too far off from that, so it is a very good start for players to have. But Draven is a very, very good champion. He is essentially somewhat unblockable, and so essentially you get in 3 damage every time. You might ask, why is he unblockable? Well, often on turn 3 they might not have developed too much on their board, and unless they have a complete chump blocker that they don't mind dying at all, Draven essentially says you can't block me because he produces a spinning axe, and the spinning axe gives an ally +1/+0 this round, and because of Draven's quick attack, that means that oftentimes on turn 3 they aren't going to have anything really with more health than 4, and that means that Draven can attack into them knowing that, and they will see and they know that you've got a spinning axe, meaning that they know they can increase this attack to 4 anyway, and so they aren't going to want to block with their 4 health minion onto Draven because they know they'll lose it if you just use the spinning axe. And then when he strikes, he creates another one, so then they can't block it with anything up to 5, and then so on and so on and so on. Each time he strikes, he's going to create more and more of these, and if you do manage to level him up, they made it a bit easier to level him up actually in a recent patch, then he is very, very good as well. And finally, Teemo could also fit into this deck. Teemo is a card that I don't think everyone thinks as an aggro card. Often when people look at Teemo, they think about him as a all-in Teemo deck. You want to be playing as many mushroom cards as you can. But honestly, you can play Teemo in this deck on his own. You don't need any mushroom support, because essentially you have to value each card by how much damage you think they're going to do to the enemy nexus. And Teemo comes out, well, if he comes out on turn 1, he will almost certainly get 1 damage, because he's an elusive on turn 1, means that it's unlikely the opponent is going to have an answer. So he's definitely going to get the 1, and then he's going to plant 5 puff caps in the enemy deck. Now if he gets a second attack off, then obviously he's up to 2 and he's got 10 puff caps, and those puff caps at that point are probably likely at least 1 will hit at that point, and so he's essentially a 1-drop that's done 2 damage. And when we compare that to our other 1-drops, Legion Saboteur might only deal 1, Precious Pet will probably deal 2, Legion Rearguard can deal 3, but that's probably about where he's at. So Teemo could fit right in, and if you are a Teemo fan and do like Teemo, then I would say he definitely could fit in this deck, and I wouldn't hesitate to put him in. But I do think he's probably a bit weaker than Draven, and Jinx I think would make you build the deck a bit slightly differently, more like the one I showcased yesterday. But overall, this is a very solid list that I think anyone could craft. It's very cheap. There is, you know, you look at the rarities of these cards here, the little gems at the bottom, you see that they're mostly green with some blue, which essentially means that you can craft this deck very easily. You don't need many shots. You could probably build this deck within about a day of playing, 2 days maybe, but I would say a day. So let's play the deck and see what it can do. So we're playing against Yasuo Katarina, which can be a bit of a problem matchup because of their stun can stop our units from getting in too much damage. Brothers Bond is probably a bit too committal here to any unit, as I say, because they will be stunning things. We'll keep one Mystic Shot. I don't think we need the second. Cast Salesman, not the best draw, especially because we're attacking on turn 1. It's not the draw that you really want to see, but I don't think they play any 1-drops. So Saboteur is going to get in max value here, dealing 3 damage straight up. Very good for this card, and she probably will get another attack, which means she's going to be dealing 4 damage, which is even better. Now right here I think we're just going to go Grenadier, and we have to be careful now as well, because we have a pretty good attack straight up here. We're going to get 1 more damage from the Saboteur, and we're going to get some Legion Rearguard action. Oh, he's going to block the Grenadier. Okay, that's fine as well. That means that our Saboteur is getting a lot of value. But they are looking to play Arachnoid Sentry on 3. That's a big... oh, okay, so they play Katarina. So Katarina is going to kill our Saboteur. But that's fine as well. Now we could go and kill Katarina. Honestly, I don't think it's actually worth it. We could Mystic Shot her, but because she's recalling and we don't really care. Katarina is kind of not what we care about at all, so we can go into Use Cast Salesman, and this is what I'm talking about. The power of him is that essentially he's going to shut down their attack. We're not going to take any damage from their attack, and we're going to be able to block as well. Now this Fate Blade Twirler will be leveling up. Well, we should be much quicker than them in terms of damage, and they're also going to take 2 damage from this Use Cast Salesman. We've got 4 in hand here, and with the Precious Pet as well, we've got a pretty good open attack here. Okay, that makes it slightly worse, but it should be not too bad. That's a rookie. Now that makes me want to play the Boom Crew rookie because he's going to be dealing extra damage as well. He could have Arachnoid Sentry, as I say, and that would make our attack even worse, but I am going to go for him. There is the Sentry, which is unfortunate. Very unfortunate indeed. And now our attack doesn't look too great, to be honest. So I might actually just wait. He can essentially... maybe we should have attacked, because it maybe would have made him trade this. Decimate there, that's 4 extra damage as well. So that could be okay. That's an interesting attack. So he plays Yasuo. And as I said, we're essentially at this point looking for ways to deal damage to face directly. So I think this is a pretty good play right now, to just go in for the Decimate when we can. So he's down on 6. The rookie gets him down to 4. The Mystic Shots get him down even further. He's bringing us down to 3. That could be a bit scary. So coming down to 3, I think we might want to block you.
Maybe you need a closer look.
Or do I just take it down to 3? I think we can afford to go down to 3. I don't think he's got any direct damage, and we don't care about our own life total, right? Our own life total is completely unimportant in this game. And we know what we've got, so we just have to attack with this Boom Kuruki. As I said, this game is all about understanding what your opponent has. It's very likely he could be playing a Spirit's Refuge here. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to attack with the Boom Kuruki, because we know we've got Mystic Shots in hand, and we know that we can win the game that way. So there's no reason to attack with anything else. And this block would potentially suggest that that is the case. It isn't, so that's fine. So we can just go in for the rookie. He gets the kill. He'll probably play Katarina. At which point we will obviously just play the used cast salesman. And we're just delaying, right? We want to see what he's got. And we're just delaying this as long as we possibly can. So now obviously we block across the board. Doesn't really matter that much. So we block across the board, and unless he Spirit's Refuge, which is something that which would give him lifesteal, we should be good here to win the game. We are taking 2 from these casks, but as I say, unless he's got something, we should be good. So I think right now we'll put it on the stack, the first Mystic Shot. I don't think he's got any direct damage, and we should be able to win this game right there, and we had the backup Mystic Shot just in case. And yeah, that's how this deck can work. Essentially, you saw we didn't care about our own life total. The fact that we went down to 3, went down to 1, it doesn't matter, right? As long as we know that we can kill them. And I might even have overplayed there for the potential. I don't think he could have had anything that could have saved him, but we definitely needed to respect the Spirit's Refuge because that could have won the game, and that's why we only attacked with the rookie, because if we did attack with everything and we ordered our attack wrong and he got off a Spirit's Refuge on us, then we could have lost the game, right? So it's very important to understand what your opponent could have, and as you play the game and build up this knowledge base of the game, then you'll begin to understand, okay, they're playing in this color, they're likely to have this deck runs that card, and that's the only card that can beat us. Essentially, it's just weighing up your odds of what's the chance of them having this card, what's the chance of them having that card, which one would be worse for us. Do I attack now, or do I develop and attack later? Now, you saw when I developed that Boom Crew rookie, he did have the Arachnoid Sentry, and it's very likely that he would, but I was just taking the chance because that Boom Crew rookie attack gave us a chance to enhance our attack value by a lot. Unfortunately, he did have the Sentry, but it's essentially just the decision making and weighing up what is most important and what's the ideal way to go about your strategy. So this is a championless deck with no epics in it either, all commons and uncommons, but you see that it can win games. It features quite a few strong cards, and I think in that aspect it's a very, very solid deck. So yeah, if you are a beginner to the game, I would suggest that this could be a deck for you, particularly if you enjoy playing aggro. And so I've been Chris. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.